because first we're going to introduce you in the organization, and then, you know, the second show, then we want to talk about
issues.
Right, there you go. Yeah. And see, in perspectives, because a lot of stuff, we're both looking at the same thing, and you see a cup and I see a glass. You know. Good afternoon, and thank us for joining us. This is me, Miss Rhonda B, coming to you once again from Voices of Mass Discussion. I am so happy to have you join us today. I have myself a wonderful guest, as I always do. We have a young lady here. She is going to bring to us information about an organization that she's very excited and very proud of, and many of you may not even have heard of out there. So that's what we do. We try to educate our guests, motivate them, and inspire them to become their better self. So just so the guests will understand, I'll let her tell you her name, you know, what she does, her title and all that. So just so you understand the premise of our show, what we try to do here to our audience out there is, who are you? That's the question that we're answering. What is it that you do? And then the kicker is, why should the audience even care? So that's where we're coming from. Who are you? What do you do? And why do we care? So again, this is me, Miss Rhonda B, Voices of Mass Discussion. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to my guest. Her name is Sandra. She will tell you who she is, her title, and then we'll start talking a little bit about the organization. Thank you for joining us, Sandra.
Thank you so much. It's the coolest thing because we're going to talk about what we do.
Right.
That's what I love to do.
I know. See, isn't that the best thing? Life just can't get too much better than this.
No, pretty much. This is the frozen red yogurt with chocolate.
Right. Oh yeah, that really make it good.
And all that good stuff in the cup.
So she can afford all that kind of stuff.
So here's the stuff in the cup for the League of Black Women. The League of Black. I am Sandra Finley, and I'm president and CEO of League of Black Women.
Okay, now, so tell us a little bit now. League of Black Women, is that an organization, or where do they operate out of?
It's a nonprofit organization, and it was founded in 1970.
Okay, so it's
just
not,
to let you know. So there's nothing new about the League of Black Women. It was founded by an amazing woman, Dr. Arnita Young Boswell.
Okay.
Dr. Boswell was a civil rights advocate. She was an educator at the University of Chicago. She
so
was
a local lady.
Really,
Okay.
and she was oh my goodness, she was the first national director of Project Head Start.
Okay.
So this is a woman who has understood the full arc of community and service, you know, and nationwide, and in some situations globally. So in 1970, Dr. Boswell and other friends and supporters of her gathered themselves at her home. I think she lived in Hyde Park at that time, and they determined that they would see ahead. Based on what was going on in our community. And you may remember in 1970s and early 80s, that is when the student loan and grant program started to hit. And what it meant was that you didn't have to be the daughter of the dentist or some very middle class person with who was economically blessed in order to go to college. You could simply go to college, apply, and then for what finances you needed that were missing, you could apply for student financial aid. That's what they called it. And so it made it so we could go to college en masse.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I'm going to let you finish that thought, but that brings to mind something you had asked us off camera, because we were, just so the audience would know, we were speaking briefly about the upcoming election. And so being in her league role, she asked myself and the young lady who was here with us, what were we as a entity expecting, what was our agenda to take to any particular presidential candidate. And at the time, I didn't have an opinion, hadn't even really thought about it. She had breached the possibility of student loans and kids going to college. Then I had said, which I'm changing my mind just based on what you're saying now, I'm going to let you finish, that, well, what does the president have to do with that? But you remind me, late 70s, early 80s, Carter was the president, and he was very instrumental in making sure that there were grants, scholarships, and available funds so that minorities can go to college. See, that's why we bring about these organizations, so we can be educated.
And that was the environment that they were in. So it meant that the children of folk who worked in factories, or just had regular jobs where they went week to week paychecks, were able to think about sending their children to college. As a matter of fact, I was a kid in that time.
And so was I.
There you are.
Unbeknownst, I benefited, but go on.
And I remember the experience because I was pretty sure I was graduating from high school, and I wanted to go to college. Now this was wild because a decision to go to college meant that I was essentially putting a pause on what was the normal maturation process for a young girl out of my community, which means that we would get through high school, graduate in May, and get married in June.
Right.
You know, so we'd get 2 white dresses, one for the prom and one for your wedding. And then you would be Mrs. So-and-so. And then
well, see, my mom, no one was pursuing me, so she wanted to make sure I go to college. But go on, that's an after.
So, you know,
she had not prepared me for the August wedding.
But you could have been, many of the girls in your class were
That's
on that trajectory.
Yeah.
So the decision to go to college was to put all of that on pause. It was also a decision to go and do something that nobody else in my family had done. And to make decisions about the great unknown, even the business of trying to select a college or a university. Where was I going to go? What are you going to major in? How are you going to get there? How are you going to take care of yourself? But we believed in the great idea. And the great idea was that if we went to college, got great educations, that we would come out and that the world of work would welcome us. And so Dr. Boswell founded an organization to do a couple of forecasts. One, what would happen to us in our community if the world of work did offer us opportunity? And more importantly, what would happen to our community if it did not?
I think we live in the did not, but I'll let you finish your thought.
Actually, over the time we lived the did and the did not. It all happened. And so the League of Black Women's work today is to forecast, do leadership research on to forecast what is the ambition goal of black women, modern black women.
Now who's behind the scene doing the research?
Well, actually we have a lot of researchers, you know, and teams of people who are working on, depending on what project we're working on. For instance, just this year alone, we have completed our 3rd important research survey on this topic. It's called Daughters of the Dream. And I love these ones that we do ourselves because they're the ones that are focused on our interests from our perspective. But it looks at, do black women have access to sponsorship in their careers? Now we have had discussions on mentorship and how important that is, and that's a person who knows about the job that you're trying to do, and they give you helpful information on here's how to make it work, or here's how this environment actually works. However, a sponsor is a person who can pull you up. And they have the power to, they're usually about 3 or 4 levels higher than you are, and they pull you into the realms where you simply can't bootstrap it yourself. So our research showed that black women were stuck at the bottom and then at the highest levels in the middle of these career pipelines. But most of us are at the bottom, and a few of us are at the middle. Almost none of us, very few of us, at the top. So if that is the case, very few of us at the top, who is going to pull us up into the environment where you simply cannot crash in yourself? So
do you think that was, does your study show that was by design, or was it just by no one thought about it?
Well, actually, it's the way it always worked. It's the way it always worked. For white men, they get just so high, and then other white men way at the top have to pull them up, and they do. It's just that there's so many of them at the top that the likelihood that many of them will arrive at the higher ranks is really very good. And they will be staffing the pipeline all the way up and down and through. For white women, because of the women's movement that we supported, they are helping each other now up and through the ranks, down at the bottom, in the middle, and at the top. White women are starting to appear, and they are also now pushing for positions on corporate boards. So they will be all the way from bottom to top. They will be present. The problem is for us is that there's nobody like us at the high middle or at the top to pull us up, because there's so few of us there to do it. We can't do it all by ourselves. White women are making a preference for other younger white women as to who their priorities are, and white men are pulling other white men and white women to the top.
The old boy network is, you know, they had years to get that one together.
So what this is less about anything awful as just understanding that this is how the system has always worked. But what's missing for us is the push and pull of representation at the top. And that's the same discussion wherever you go. Like right now, there's no black woman on the Supreme Court. And so we are not represented there. Who is going to see the potential for the interpretation of laws from the perspective of our experience? I remember when Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor was discussing what her candidacy would mean, and she says the Supreme Court could use a wise Latina.
And proud of it, yeah.
And proud of it. And she said it openly, and that's what she uniquely brought to the table, no problem. But we don't have a wise black woman.
Now, do you know, did your study show, is that like a cultural thing, or how did we end up missing the boat?
We didn't miss the boat. We literally were left behind, waiting at the dock for our opportunity to board the boat that we helped to pay for.
But did your study say, right, because you know, you had the men, the old network, and that's just been in existence since the beginning of the time, so we know about that. Then you had the women's movement that came along, in some kind of way that became synonymous with white women, because women should have included us, but it hasn't. History has shown that it hasn't. Then like you say, and I really was proud of her, and I love it when any of us embrace our us when whatever we do. She made no apology for being the first Latino, and she made it clear that what I do, we do. My accomplishment is our accomplishment.
It's our accomplishment. Yes.
So then, so we.
What happened to us?
Yes.
This is the coolest thing, because before we started to do the research, we simply had anecdotal stories of what we had experienced as individuals, collectively, but we had not the proof of the data. And to help indicate what did happen in the larger scene of it. So here's what happened, and I love to explain it this way because we started to understand it. Women's movement, we all marched together. White women, black women.
Burned the bras, everything, we were together.
We were together, and we all saw it as a woman thing. We want change, and so we all marched for change to the door of power. Bam, 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 we want change, we all want, boom, 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 knocked on the door. And the power opened the door and said, what do you want? And we said, we want change. And power said, okay, I understand. So we send in one of you to represent all of you, symbolically. And what we didn't notice is that power chose who got to come in. Not we didn't choose who we send in. So power would say,
we were so happy that a female went in there. We weren't paying attention to the paradigm, how they got in there, who went in there.
Exactly. You know, so power did not choose black women. Power would choose women who were of the community and that they were a part of it. So they would choose white women. But white women would say, don't worry, I got this. I got this. You know, and then we had marched with her and she with us. And so we went, okay, she represents us. She's cool. And she would go in and then she would sit down and she'd say, we want this, that, and that. And power would say, look, we know there's going to be some change. And you're going to get this. But we're not prepared for the that. And the that thing would be the race thing. We're not prepared to handle that. But you're going to get this, and this. But we're just not prepared to handle a race thing right now.
But what happened to the period in our history, though, where women were, because when I was a young girl going to college, one of the incentives and one of the visions that I had before me of going to college, but there were successful black women that had gone to college and were making it in the corporate world at the expense of black men at that era, during that period of time. You know, so it just, but but it was short-lived, and you haven't heard much about it. But when I was going through college, like I say, I wasn't the first one in the family to go to college. We had an aunt, she had graduated, she got recruited straight out of college. She went down there to DePaul University, was working at IBM, constantly moving up the ladder. You know, she is the one who had to pull her husband, up through the ranks, because it just wasn't, even though he was college graduated as well, the system wasn't accepting him as well.
Well, part of what happened with power in the deal resulted in what you just talked about. So where power says we're not going to deal with race, we're not going to solve that, but we'll give these other things. And remember, there's I call this the discussion between sister and sister. And so the sister is at the table, and she understands that she's got a chance now for the movement to get more than they've ever had before. You know, these 4 things, but not this one thing. They just won't move on that. And so she's got a decision to make, and she takes the deal. And then she comes out and she says, we said, what happened? And she says, we got this, and this, but we didn't get that race thing. But don't worry, we'll come back for that. we'll come back for that. You know, you have to get what you can get and come back for that. And then what we now know is that nobody ever comes back. Movements don't come back. They keep moving forward with whatever gains they get, and they build on them, but they don't come back, the issues that they left behind. So we were left literally behind. And we used to think, well, what happened? Did Sister Punk at the table, you know, deal us out? But actually, it wasn't at the table. That whole scenario, the trap of it, was at the door. Once we let her in by herself, after it took all of us to get that far, and then we let her in by herself to represent all of us, then the trap was already sprung. Because her experience and her view of what was important was never tied and tethered to the restrictions that we experience in this society around race. So had we been at the table with her, and she with us, and power said, you can get this, 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 and this, and this, but not race, we would have went no deal. No deal at all.
But, okay, I understand the study, but see, but you're saying that as if there were never a window where professional black women were climbing the ladder.
Well, then now here's what happened in that window. We looked also at, and you'll like this part, we looked at that phenomenon. We said, well, so what was the impact of that? And they said the impact of that was that black women were now only going to get so far, but without the support for advancement with respect to our race as well, we were only going to ever just get so far, most of us. Now, you asked the question, what happened? You asked the question, so what happens to the few who got to the higher places? We really misread as a community what that meant. We thought that they were indicators of a trend for improvement, when what they really were was outliers.
All right, individualized.
Yeah, it was more individual. Your success was actually just for you, and it had conditions on it. It said that they would let you through and you up because you were to be a shining representative. But here are the things you could not do. All right,
you couldn't bring the sisterhood along.
No, you could not bring the sisterhood along, and oftentimes your job made it so that you did a function, but you did not have hiring authority. All right, you didn't have operations jobs oftentimes, and even if you did, you had to go through HR to get approval to hire.
So I'm saying, so the difference between you didn't or you couldn't.
You couldn't.
Okay.
You could not. You absolutely could not.
That, you know what? Even though the story is bleak, but that's the difference. That's important to me as a black woman, that you couldn't versus you didn't.
You couldn't. No, you absolutely positively couldn't. Because actually, what it took in order for
even though your study, you don't want to did the study, but I think there was a little you couldn't that you didn't know as well. Because based on your scenario, which I actually like, is when you did the women thing, and then okay, we'll let you in, so we'll let two white women in, we'll let the one black woman in. I don't know if it was spoken, because the way you make it seem like, okay, they knew they were excluding the minority.
Yeah, well, they actually did.
Okay.
They knew. They set they set it out. You know, what do we need to do in order to fix this? And then you lay down as little as you need to, and then the crowds go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And think that they've got more than they got. But let me talk to you about how it works, so that you know they absolutely couldn't. Because what it takes in order to, say, bring people into the company is not only you're going to bring me, the person to the left and the right of you have to support that decision. All right? Now, when it was just white people, and even when white women were being challenged, and the decision makers were men, then the men didn't support the idea of women, and so women did not come in. Even if there was one woman, if she couldn't get the guy to the left and the right to support it,
she couldn't bring other ones.
She couldn't bring other women. But then they relaxed it and changed, and they made it so that now they have more women, more white women. And so white woman to white woman, and white man to white man, they made it possible for others to come through, because they were essentially a discussion on them bringing in their own kin and kind, their own daughters now. They start to see, and so no one stops them, and there's more of them to support the decision to the left and the right. But with that one outlier, she herself, responsible for bringing all of us in, and she doesn't get the support of the white woman to the left and the white man to her right. It's just on her to do it, and oftentimes the job that she had wasn't even a decision-making job on hiring in that space. But left and right, that meant that she herself would never have the advice and consent to say, okay, come on down, you're hired, or rarely do it. And so it never was just a one-person decision, but it was a collective communal decision at the top, okay, bring in your person. You know, and by the way, I'll bring in mine too. We'll bring in 2 and 3 and whatever folks from wherever. And so the illusion was that she had more power than she had. She had a position of herself, but not the power of the organization.
And that's where we ended up doing that 70s era with this tokenism.
Yes.
Because there is a period in our history where there were 2 white women brought in and there was a black woman brought in. What I didn't realize, never started to study it or didn't know what you're saying, which is really a missing plank there. Because they had the black woman there, you're assuming that we were there.
No,
and
but
we
it was
were not there.
It was her.
Right, it was her.
It was her.
And she got conditioned for it to be about her. Well, they were still conditioned, it's about us.
What her experience was at that point then is trying to survive herself.
Right, survive.
Because she had no community there to support her, nobody to back her up. And so everything was about her task and how well she did the task. Whereas and by the way, by herself a lot of the times.
And you still had them pushing her back, so her struggle was always a tug of war.
Always a tug of war. And so this is what it looks like. Do you remember the old story about the Trojan horse? All right, so you got the people on the inside of the city of Troy. Yeah, you can't get through our gate.
Right.
And then you got the army on the outside trying to get through, and they just can't reach the gate.
Right.
And so they build a horse as a token of we give up.
Right.
And then they put in a small group of soldiers in the horse, and then they pretend to go away.
Right.
And then when the people inside the gate are celebrating, and they open up and they say they've gone away and they've left this. Let's pull it in. It's our trophy. And then they close the gates behind. And then while they're having a good time and celebrating and drinking and sleeping and all that sort of thing, and their success, then a compartment opens on the side of the horse, and then the little army, the little group inside climbs down, and then they open the gates, and then they let the army come back in. And so that's how it is. And so we think that when we have one black person in the place on the other side, they're going to open the gates. But when we re-examine what really happened in that myth is that a whole team of them were in that horse, and a whole team of them climbed down, and a whole team of them pulled open the gates for them. Yet only one of them was a black person, and they send her around to the black gate and tell her by herself, open up that gate for all the black people. So while the team of them are working to open up the gate for the white women and other white men, and they get the gate open because they are all, it's enough force to do it. She's our girl over there struggling, or our guy, with the gate all by themselves. And pulling, and we're outside waiting. Up the gate and let us in. They're getting in. How come we can't come in? And we're going that one, and then we go, you're not trying hard enough. You're not trying on her, right? They're not trying hard enough. She's going, no, they won't help me. You're not trying. And then she says, well, look, if y'all don't appreciate how I'm trying, I'm not killing myself.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not jeopardized.
But the fact is, I can't do it. Right. You know, and you all don't even appreciate the effort that I'm making to do it, and they won't help me. Because we never saw what it really took on the other side to get that gate open for the others. So we didn't know it took a team. We thought she would be enough, or he would be enough.
But you know, to me, that sort of explains how we ended up in the next generation. So that was our generation. Then we ended up with this disconnect that we now have today. Yeah. Because our parents, who for the most part were not college educated people, they made it possible for us to be college educated through value systems, various ways. 99% of the time, not financially, but through various other ways. Value system, motivation, they just made it possible for us to go to college. Yeah. Those of us who did go to college, and then so now we have our offsprings and we're bringing them up as adults. Yeah. Because the dream that was promised wasn't delivered as we perceived it to have been promised. Yes. So we brought our children up with the understanding that going to college was important, but nowhere near with the emphasis that our parents put on us. Because by the time we came along, it became more about a job. Yeah. And so, it's like if it's we started telling our kids that it was important to go to college to get a job. Whereas our parents, it was important for us to go to college to get a job, and it was bigger than a job. And so for us, it was only about telling our kids to go to school to get a job.
Well, there were a lot of other values attached to the first generation go to college. Yeah. It was not only a job, like you said, but becoming an educated person. Right. was important.
And to be self-sufficient. And I know my mom just so many other reasons, because the job obviously is one of them, to be self-sufficient. In my mom's heart, and in her opinion, you wouldn't have to deal with the subtle racism if you were educated, because in her opinion, she thought you would recognize it better.
Yeah.
And but then once you did recognize it, she felt that you would be in a position to take a stance.
To counter it.
Yeah.
But what we bought was that the problem with our being able to move forward had to do with us and preparing ourselves. So we bought that, whole soul and body. We thought it was, so if I go get this education, then they would have
options.
I have options. And of course, we did get the power of knowledge and intelligence, and because of that, our business class flourished. Do you remember our communities that used to be full of people who owned businesses and things like that? And so there are those options. But here's the deal. With the League, we look at what was it against what we really thought it was. And it's not about sour grapes. It's just about a good look. It's the same reason that NASA sends, ships up into the night to try to see close, to try to see more clearly what happened here, and what was the difference between what we thought and what was. And when we get that intelligence, what we do now is have that option to change our view of how we proceed with here's how it really works.
And this in your organization, that information is, I've heard of the Black League of Women organization, never been introduced to it. Never knew what it stood for, or anything like that. So that is it's similar to the League of Women Voters, except for there's politics. They do the study and the research.
Yeah, the League of Women Voters is an important and distinctive organization because that's about political empowerment.
Yeah, that's big.
And that is a tool that we have to use.
Right.
But in addition, before you get your tools, you have to have a strategy.
That's what I'm saying. So what you're saying,
ours is how you form your strategy against how do you see and how do you understand what really went down here.
And we need to understand what you guys researched a little bit better, because even myself may not have given up on the system.
Well,
if I had known a little bit about
what you want is power within the system. You want power. You want yourself empowered within the system, so that now what it is that you choose to bring to life actually gets a chance to come. And we actually are on a road where we try so hard to get the task of it done that we lose sight of our strategic options within the task.
But our generation, the generation immediately following us, and definitely the generation behind them, it's as if, no one has said this verbally, but the impression is if when middle-class black females had the opportunity to get in the middle-class position, we're not even talking about upper class, we're just talking about in the middle-class position, there were no Harriet Tubmans. And they didn't take
to bring others.
Yeah, and your study has shown that wasn't true.
That's not true. That is not true. We did what we could do, and those women did what they could do, and those men did what they could do. But it was never ever going to be enough. If what they did was by themselves. Remember, they didn't own these companies.
But you see it with our black men, because no matter what you say about us as a race of people, when there's a black male of prominence, he do try to bring people along.
All the time.
We don't see it with black women.
But what's not sustainable in any situation is an individual trying to bring a people through. I mean, my favorite way to liken it is the story of Moses. Okay, let's go there. There he is, and he's had a hard time. But at the same time, a fortuitous time. Right. He was the child of a people who was oppressed, and he should have been destroyed. Right. Except for he was rescued by an angel that told his mother, put this child in the river and we will take care of him.
I still would really love to know that as black women, were we not conscious of the importance of trying to bring other blacks along?
I think we were always conscious of the importance of trying to bring other blacks along. But what was the big surprise was that we were not allowed to do it, and that we couldn't.
But we're the ones who did it the least. Like I say, even with black men has been oppressed. Black men has been oppressed a few times. They've been oppressed as black men. Then in the workforce, like I say, there's that window during my young teenage years going into adulthood when we had the college educated few successful. You know, the people that came out and had these high-powered jobs at IBM, up to Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
We had that window of time, and it was a struggle for black men to get in there.
Yeah.
Okay, but they made it. They got in there, and they brought a handful of people along with them as best they could over the years. And just see, but this is why studies are better than perception. And just historically, you just don't know of it. I mean, they're not out there. You guys would know better because you did research. Just historically, you just don't know of the stories of you making it and then bringing me along.
And here's the deal.
As a female.
Here's the deal. It was never going, what was never sustainable was a handful of folk. Never, that is not how you people a new territory, you know, with a handful. What you really want is a connection, a pipeline connection that is as sure as an expressway.
But no, you know what, see, I understand that, and I understand that's the conclusion, but I'm just saying, just historically, but black men were just as oppressed, but they still brought other blacks along.
And I'm saying to you, black women brought other black women along. Our problem was we had a whole race of people to be brought along.
I know, but black men had the whole race of people too.
Yes, but again, to your point, they were only able to bring handfuls along.
Historically, we know they brought them along. I'm just saying, female-wise, it just seems, this is not the case, it's a stereotype. It just seems that a lot of times, as black women have made it, even to this day, because you know you have that poor little child, Raven Simone. They always want to be an exception to their blackness.
Well, now look, that is not a typical response. That's why it got all of our attention. It sounded kind of crazy, so that's not a typical response. So here's the deal. When you're trying to figure out what has happened here, there's a difference between the narrative of it, you know, which is one person's view or a few person's view, and then it's clearly what the data shows, and then you marry those two. Black women, according to our data, do and have always mentored each other and done everything that they could to help each other. The problem is that what we were trying to do against what we needed to do was not enough force to deliver the race to the opportunity. So let's talk about the things that we did together that made a difference. All right? Civil rights movement, we did together, it made a difference. Sending our children to school. Everybody believes your children should go to school, and we get them to school. It made a difference. But you have to take a look at the environment that you're trying to do that in. If the school that you get them to is not what it needs to be, then even though they're going, they're not getting the education in the educational environment that they need. And so then the pressure comes back to you as the parent. Now you must not only be the parent, you must turn yourself into an educator, you know, in order to support that and make it what it needs to be. So you're at both ends of it. When the systems fail to deliver to us what they deliver to others, opportunity. And so when you talk about the corporate world, and we talk about the few black people who get up enough higher in the pipeline to be able to pull another one up, one other up is of no important consequence. What you want is for that chain in the pipeline to be connected. So if you pull one, everybody moves up.
You know, that's why I'm getting stuck. I understand that. But black men had the same opposition, more so. I think black men have been far more oppressed and discriminated against than we have as black women. I personally feel that. You know, we have the ceiling part, you know, of course, because women have it, period. Black women, white women. So, of course, if it's a ceiling for white women, our ceiling is way down here. But I just feel that as a race of people, that we've all been discriminated against and oppressed. And our men catch it 100-fold.
Okay, here's the thinking trap in that. Comparing the oppression of black men and black women is like comparing the impact of poverty in the household that is poor for everybody in the household. It is the same force against us as women, against them as men. It is the same force. All you're doing is looking at the impact or the time on the timeline. So when a black man, and any black man, will tell you about when he was disenfranchised. He'll tell you what happened on the job. He'll tell you what happened on the street, you know, when he was accosted. He will tell you. He will tell you it all happened. And what he has done about it was try to survive it.
Okay.
All right? And to your point, he may have, because he was male, have had more resources in the culture and the community of men than black women have had.
So that's what I'm getting at. Okay, so
but even then, he knew that even at the place where he appeared to have more, he knew there was much more that he was not able to reach.
No, I'm with that. But if there's 20 levels, and then you're able, and for historically, we were not even able to enter the building.
Yes.
So now we're into the building, and as a black male, you've made it to the 5th floor. I understand there's 15 other floors, but I'm just saying historically, we have enough examples that we can point to. You're saying there's example with women. It's just for some reason that the story is not told. That's where.
And I'm saying, and in our study, the story or the
data, story is there. The data is there.
Yeah, the data is there.
And that's what I'm liking to hear.
It shows you that black women do mentor other black women.
Yeah.
It shows you
and we need to tell the story. We need to encourage women.
Let me just tell you how it looks for us. It shows you that black women do and have always mentored other black women. It shows you that in terms of what we get in exchange for what we invest in our careers, most black women have not been promoted. There's the majority of them in 5 years. 5 years, no promotions in exchange for what we do. No other population has that to deal with. Working like that, which means we're economically disenfranchised because that's money you're not earning, that other people are earning as they go forward. So our circumstances, you have to understand, it's essential. You know what it's like? It's like there are two, think of a swimming pool with lanes. And all the other lanes are filled with water. And so how fast and how far you go really has to do with your conditioning as a swimmer, right? And your strength and your talent. And so everybody dives in, and we are in the lane that we are in. And then we are stroking and stroking for everything, and yet we're behind and behind. And we go, why are we behind? The other people are just moving forward. I'm not less of a swimmer or anything like that. And then somebody notices, a League of Black Women notices, you know what? The density of the water in your lane is different from the other lanes. You're essentially swimming in mud. You're swimming in mud. It's not you, it's the environment that you're in. Yet you are evaluated as though you're swimming in the cool, clear water that other people are too. Now, we have a hard time accepting, what? I don't see mud, but the league sees your mud. We see your mud, and it's important that we report it as mud, because you have two responses there. Either trained swimmers who can swim in mud higher and faster than anybody else. But we say, if you do that, then what you've done is create another outlier, because that is not the normal condition of more people. That's our super champions.
But how come we have not been better educated on this?
Now here's the deal. Because the assumption was that the point of education was to give us the information that would support the task of our work. It was never about a focus on understanding the political environment around the opportunity to make a career happen.
I understand that. No. Even I understand that, but we were not.
But where were we going to get it from? We came up out of communities where we were doing things as students and as early entrants into the corporate world that our community knew nothing about this environment. You talk about the young man from IBM. Who else in his family? Even today, $100 on the table at any family dinner to anybody who can say what mama does or what sister does. You know, you may know where she works, maybe, but can you say what her job is?
I can go with that.
Can you say what she does?
But the thing is
where was she going to get it?
Perception becomes our reality, because let me just say a little bit about mindset and thought pattern. See, because for me, this is just me and my mind, the way I don't look at as much as to what didn't happen. No, I look at what didn't happen, but I don't focus as much on the why it didn't happen, especially when someone else was able to accomplish it. Because to say that we did not pull other women along because of the forces against us, that I have problems, that doesn't resonate with me, because every minority have problems of trying to get into mainstream society.
The difference will be, and this was really important too, and I'd like to talk about this because people go through these excuses. No, this is just a decent description of the facts. I mean, I got from where I was to here because I had GPS, all right? Without GPS, I wouldn't have been here when I was supposed to be here, because I had no natural sense of direction. And they didn't invent GPS for me personally. The majority of people downloading that app need help with trying to figure it out. So if you have GPS, you're going to get where you need to get. Where you're trying to go. And I'm saying the league's business is to invent GPS so that you get to where you got to go. And it's important to have looked at why were people not there before.
Right.
But it is not, to your point, an excuse. But we have to take a look at what failed.
No, and I like to know. I like
we have to acknowledge what was broken. Because when you don't acknowledge what's broken, then you break the people, and you break the brand of the people. You say these people are not good people. These people can't get it together. These people are not, and you come into your opportunity devalued. Now, when the league looks at why we look at things, why do we look at the progress of black women? We look at it and we don't compare them to where other people are. We don't spend a lot of time other than a passing glance at the difference between black and white women. That is not the battle between women. An example, we asked her in our surveys and research, what is your ambition? And what is the difference between the gap of your goal and where you are? And we work towards how you're going to close that gap between where you are and where you expect to be. How are you going to do that? And we oftentimes find amazing things in that space. We find everything from she has not the resources at hand to close this gap any more than when Moses got to the edge of the ocean.
But that's why because my mind, still being in education, just always go back to having a conversation with young people. And I just, you didn't make up the study, so I'm just stuck there with because when you say anything about she didn't have the resource, it was harder. Yeah. Every group that tries to go against the grain runs into obstacles.
But the obstacles, again, the solutions to the obstacles are different depending on do you have the boat or don't you. We both all get to the edge. And if you can arrive with your community intact, if you arrive with your community intact, odds are somebody is a boat builder.
But there's still how we end up with the stereotype. It obviously is not factual because you have research saying otherwise.
Right.
But the stereotype is every group has helped their the ones behind them come to that next rung, except for black women.
Now here's the difference.
It's a stereotype, and you have studied research
but
that
I need to get you here.
Okay.
Because I need you to leave the stereotype alone because it'll.
I know, but we're trying to educate the public.
But I know, sit it right here. And it's like a weed. It will eat and feed and grow on its own. We don't need to pay any attention to it.
I've been out here for hundreds of years. But
here's the deal. Here's the deal. And this was interesting. With the other groups who would come to the opportunity, they would, as you say, be barred from the opportunity. But then when they were allowed in, they weren't required just to be one or two of them, cherry picked. The whole group could come in, in some sort of orderly way that was what.
When an organization let women in, like a law firm, and they started letting women in, women were able to come in.
White women came in. All right, they recognized when white and it became white women came in.
Strength in numbers.
Right, but the opportunity for us didn't say black women come in. They cherry picked individuals.
Yes, they let you in, and then I wasn't in.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't send us in.
No, no, it was one. And it would say in meetings, we've got one.
Right. We've got one. That's where the tokenism stuff comes.
That's where.
And I've worked at large corporations where they would point to.
It would be one, and then one over here, one over there.
If 5,000 people in the place.
And let me tell you, not only would it be one, it would be one symbolically. One, and she would be in a strange situation. Her job. I met a woman who worked at a major corporation in human resources. And I got a chance to visit with her because I was in between presentations between groups at that company, and she was assigned to be my escort.
Okay.
So I had a chance to talk to her in between things, and I found out, I thought I was talking to a woman who passionately loves human resources. I was talking to a young woman who had trained as an engineer.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, well, it happens. Sometimes you go to school for one thing and determine that it's not what you want to do. And so I did ask. I said, so you kicked engineering to the side for, she said no. I couldn't get an engineering job with this company, so I took
salary.
I took what I could get. I said, so what was your plan? She says, well, I thought that once I got in, I could make my way over to the engineering department. And I said, that's not the way this works. And she didn't know that wasn't the way this works. And so many of us have these myths about how these companies work. Her view of it was like you get in any door, like a stadium, you come in the door and then you get into the big arena and you can just walk on over to the other side.
And we were taught that.
But it isn't a big open arena. What it actually is a maze.
Right.
And if you come in the maze, the door other than what you're supposed to come into or what you choose to come into, you never make your way.
Get pigeonholed, right?
You never make your way to the other side. And and the other things happen. Plus, you are competing with people who passionately love what they're doing, and you're just there just to get started in something. And you're burning time. Because had you come in the door you were supposed to come in, had they let you in the door,
I know,
you were
but
knocking on, you could have been.
Back to, see, but that, during that era, that's what we were taught. First of all, you go to college, you get that degree.
And get in any which way you can.
Get in where you fit in. Right, and then work your way to
Except for we weren't getting in where we fit in. We were getting in where we
did allowed us.
Exactly.
And then see, we got pigeonholes. This is what I'm saying. So we end up.
You use the word. You know, I don't even know about people pigeon. We got trapped. We got trapped.
Okay. So I can say something about Tarsha. You got trapped. It means you like stuck there.
You're stuck. No, you're literally stuck. And what our data is showing is that right now, black women are in their career progression are suppressed and stuck. Stuck.
So that's interesting. So therefore, each one teach one. So if you're stuck, you just don't have that passion to reach back to that next generation. See, because this is what seemed like to me the whole logic, and this is seemed like to me it happens in every other subculture, that you learn the struggle you went through, then you share with me.
That's mentoring.
Yeah,
they do.
Not so that I can't make it, and not so that I can even change my direction, but so I can know what to expect.
And here's the deal. You cannot share what you yourself have not accomplished.
I know, but you share what you've experienced.
You share what you've experienced, and what I can share with you is what I know from my experience. But if your goal is to go beyond me, and I don't know how to do that.
And then this is where I was telling you, to say before, where the stereotype comes in. Not saying it's factual, but because I'm a black woman, and any opportunity that I have, anyone knows that I'm definitely going to bring you with me. If you want to come, whatever I can do, even at the risk of you pulling me back, but you can't pull me down because what's mine is going to be mine. But even at the risk of, trying to pull you and then you pull me back a little bit. But just women, black women in particular, and this is when I was in the workforce, is that you just constantly always heard that the black female is not going to try to help propel you.
Let's just run this real quick. Let's just get over the what if and all that. Yeah. All right, let's just do a little quick role play. All right?
Because
I want you to try. I want you to try to bring a young woman into this company. You're in, all right? And you see her, and you're invested in her, and you want to bring her in. Not only her. Let's do it. Not just her. Let's bring 5. 5 from wonderful schools and whatever. And you've been mentoring them since they were in school. You know who they are, and you want them to work for our company. All right, that's what you always say. So you're not talking to me, and you're trying to get me to agree with you that they ought to come in.
See, that's not even what I'm envisioning. I'm envisioning. See, the thing is, I don't know. It's just hard for me to separate black women, from the rest. Because no matter
from the rest of what,
the other groups that run into obstacles.
Then you must. That's why you need to read the research.
Okay.
Because until you accept that this is actually what happened,
that is unique, something.
Until you actually read the research and you find out exactly what happened, then it appears to be not possible. It's impossible as I see ghosts or something like that.
I got like your scenario about the mud. I'm looking at water and the fact that I can't see underneath. And everybody else is doing like this, but I gotta try to get through the mud. But I don't see.
Get through the mud. You were sitting on the sidelines and you saw. And
then I think it's water.
Before we started to do the research, we did not know how widespread this was. It sounded like it was a personal problem.
It's so unfair, though.
It is unfair.
Right.
It is not right, and it is unfair. But what's important about it is the impact. Has been. It's really sucked opportunity away from generations.
That's why I guess it's bothering me, even though no individual one person did it, because we go back to how you started with the judge. When that lady became judge, and then for us who grew up in the city of Chicago, now whether you went to Trinity or not, the one thing you know for sure about Jeremiah is that his saying about he's unapologetically black. So even though I don't think he 100% lives up to it, but in theory, he's not going to not be black in order to get the next opportunity. So then this young lady came through as a judge, and who knows whether she ever said that out loud through her career. But the one thing for a fact, she stood there before every young Latino that was watching that news. And all the ones who didn't see her, they now heard it. She owned her heritage.
Now the deal is, she does own her heritage, and she owns a relationship that is inextricable
Mm-hmm.
to a whole community
Mm-hmm.
that is actually actively building its pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
as it should,
Mm-hmm.
all the way from the beginning of the employment opportunity here, all the way up to the point of being a Supreme Court judge. And also understand that the way that the court works is that by herself,
Mm-hmm.
occasionally she might be the swing vote here, there, and
Mm-hmm.
yonder, but for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
her success will be when she can influence others,
Mm-hmm.
other judges, to know what she knows about what is different about the view of the case or not.
See, I'm okay with what happens once you get in. I mean, that's your decision, your kind. But I'm just saying the message that she sent out to her young people
Yeah.
is that don't give up. It's possible, even if it seems impossible.
But
Because
again, you want to pay attention to, it wasn't magical,
Mhm.
all right?
She made it clear. That's my point.
But again,
she said that,
but she
without
was
saying
delivered
it.
to the opportunity by a very sophisticated political process.
I know,
and
but
advocacy.
listen to her message that she went through some stuff.
Yeah.
She said this woman was so honest. It was not easy. I was discriminated against because I was a woman.
Yes.
I was discriminated against twice because I'm
Yes.
Latino.
Yes.
She said it wasn't easy.
Yes.
She said the doors were not just closed; they were nailed
So
shut.
did she say what made those doors open?
No, she did not say that.
Don't you want to know what made the doors open?
You don't want to know.
Because if you don't, you have the illusion that she just kept jumping hurdles and was successful like an Olympic champion. Jumped over this hurdle, jumped over that hurdle, and jumped over that. It's almost Disney-esque. But
see,
that's not how the doors open.
It's not how the doors open, but see, what I want, the takeaway for me is that I just don't think we pass this along to our next generation enough, that you have to just do it anyway. There is no crystal ball.
No, we have got to quit sending our generations to the edge and telling them when they get to the edge of the mountain, just leap and you will fly because you believe in it. We have got to start laying ground that is solid and that is real in an effort to assure that they get to the other side en masse.
But do you think our young people don't even take the risk because they're so convinced that the odds against them anyway?
No, I do. Our young people take risk and are at risk all the time, hoping that something appears to make their dreams come true.
But if that was the case, then we wouldn't have a 60% high school dropout rate.
No. That's a much larger conversation and not on the shoulders, even only or mostly on our young people.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. You know that. There's a role that self-determination plays.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are in an environment where, I tell you, one time I substituted for a teacher. It really, I wanted to do a piece of research, and they said, "I'll tell you what, we will let you do that if you do this for us." And since it sounded like something I needed to do anyway,
sounded simple.
I went in. So I went in to do it, and so I'm in this classroom where I would not normally be, literally for a day, because I literally. It was too good to pass up the opportunity to do this. And it was fair that it was a substitute teacher, not the full teacher, because I don't have, those resources to bring. But in any case, I ran them through an exercise that I had from the League of Black Women's Work.
Okay.
And as we got through it, and what it was simply a life planning exercise, as we got through it, and we got mostly through that period, one of them stopped. She said, "Who are you? Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm Mrs. Finley." And she said, "But you're not a regular teacher, are you?"
Right.
And I said, "No." And she says, "Because we don't normally get this, this quality of information or this type of thing." I said, "No, you don't." And then she says, "But this is an honors class." That's what she said. We're an honors class, and we don't normally get this. And I said, "What bothers you about it? Because about what you think you're getting?" And she says, "Well, there's another school not too far from here where they get this kind of stuff all the time, and they have honors classes, and I know that my honors class is not the same as their honors class. So I know that I'm being cheated." This is what she said. In that space of time, and others agreed. And the fact is, they were up for more than they were being presented with every day. And it wasn't just the day I was in; it was every day they were up for more than they had been presented in. So it's like being forced to eat bad food and try to make the most of it on an every day. And by the way, food that we used to think was good food, or good enough food,
killing us.
but now we know it's killing us. It's not as good as it needs to be. And so we blame students for stuff that is the larger institutional problem. And we got to stop doing that. because it keeps us from focusing on what needs to be done. In addition to the preparation of determination for our students, we have got to stop sending them into environments that won't deliver what they need anyway.
And you know what, and being in the educational system, I personally feel that as a society, we are giving our young people the wrong message, because I have to temper myself on a regular basis to just not get on the soapbox to tell our young people we are descendants of slaves, of people who would kill us as well as they would look at us. And because of that, and despite that, we survived. The wherewithal, some of us had to survive, otherwise the rest of us would not be here. So to say, this is my reality. So for to keep giving the kids and their parents this understanding or this impression, because perception becomes the reality, that the reason why they don't do as well in school, academically, or in life is because the system is failing them. I just personally feel, I wish I could do research because I would love to research it. I just personally feel they don't give it what they need to give it because they keep thinking that there's something else they're supposed to be getting. See, because my lot, and I honestly, and I do special ed. So,
but here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is, they are not, and they know it. They are not getting. We are not giving what we need to be giving. You would say the same thing if there was a household where the mother in charge of the children, let's just say, or the parents in charge of children weren't giving those children the resources and the guidance that they need in order to be good people. Okay? You would say the same thing. That it's the first thing to do before you judge those children is to ask what's going on in the house.
I know, but then see, to me, but the second thing you need to do, because regardless of what your environment or how bad your household were, as a society, we still expect you to be whole. Wait.
That is ridiculous.
But let me tell you this. It's ridiculous or not, because being a child is a pass-through. You're going to be grown longer than you're going to be anything. Yeah. So you cannot live the next 36 years based on what didn't happen in the first 18.
But it matters. It matters the environment that we form in. But I'm saying
as a whole, but even in school, this is the thing what I try to get our kids to understand. If the top is the 20th floor, you're in an environment that only allow you to go 10 floors. Why are we at least on the 5th floor?
And I will tell you this, if you use even that example that you just gave, if the top is the 20th floor, and you start out on the 1st floor.
Everybody starts on the 16th. Yeah. Even the people who make it to the 20th floor, we all start on the 1st floor.
So there are people who will measure your experience against what floor are you on, which is a way to look at it.
No, I'm not talking about outside of you. I'm talking about you as an individual. If I'm talking to you as a child or as a student, when I'm talking to you as a student.
But I'm making a point to you that needs to be considered in your analogy. Okay. All right? What the league is interested in is the integrity of the building of all those floors. Okay. All right?
From 1 to 20.
1 to 20.
Okay.
Is the quality at 1.
Okay.
The same quality as it is at 20. The information may be different at 20. You know, more sophisticated, but quality should be on floor 1, floor 2. Who would get on an elevator where you were told, this is rickety down here on floor 1. All right, sometimes the elevator falls down here on floor 1. But if you get to floor 2, you get a better ride. You get to floor 3 and whatever. So we ask the question, is the quality inside the building that the elevator that you described in, does that have the requisite integrities? Right? If it does not, then everybody is at risk. Even on the so-called 20th floor, eventually it will collapse. It will collapse. It will not perform. And right now, we keep looking at the individuals who are standing in the elevator and asking we keep asking, are you trying to get to what level of floor you're on? But we are now understanding, in order to bring the masses of people through, we have to build buildings with the consistency of integrity at floor 1, 2, 3, and up through 20. And that isn't happening. And here's how it looks in the school. It happens where it's inconsistent. You perhaps will be in a class with an amazing teacher, all right, who has resources and whatever because of their relationships and whatever. And the students in that classroom will have a very different experience from the ones in another classroom right down the hall, same grade or whatever, with a teacher who doesn't have resources or who is not as whatever, however you make magic happen. And they will be different. Now, one of the things that the league did, because we asked the question, so you described the problem, So what about the solutions? What kinds of things can happen, can a community do, can a black woman do as a leader to help? On my watch, the first conference that we did on my watch, I've been president and CEO since the year 2000.
Oh, okay.
Was to honor a woman who not only had achieved, but had used the power of her position to lift others, because we wanted to focus on what we talked about earlier. What have you done with your power to lift others? And so we honored an amazing woman whose name is Oral Lee Brown. You might remember her story. Oral Lee Brown was, back in the day, a real estate, she was a realtor. I don't know if she was a broker at that point. Let's just say she was, though. She sold real estate. And she was invited to a career day at the school.
For the kids.
Speak for the kids in her community in California. A neighborhood that she knew well. And so she went in to speak to this group of first graders, I believe they were. I believe they were first graders. If not, they were third graders, but they were young. Elementary school children. And she was probably going to deliver the same "you can do it" and "here's what I do" speech. And she got another idea. In order to encourage these children to pull together and do, she made a promise to all of them. She says, if you will do what you're supposed to do, do what your teachers ask you to do, and get the grades you're supposed to get, I will guarantee that I will send this whole class to college. I will send this whole class to college. That's what she said. She made that commitment. And when the children got ready, that group, to go to college, she sent every one of them to college except for 2 children. All right? One of them who said, I just don't want to go. That's not what I see my vision is. And another child was murdered. All right?
We just go, because in a free society, if you don't want to go, you want to go. Okay, but the point is,
he had the whole whatever, and he decided to take another. He decided to take another class. But everybody else went to college. And here's the deal: we brought her from California to where our conference was to tell the story and to honor her commitment to it, because we wanted to know what can one do in order to change the stars for many, and what she could do. So we asked her to tell her story. She talked about the journey. She said that she needed to motivate these children and their teachers and their parents to work over a long distance trip, a long distance journey, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. Number was something bright and amazing, and something that she knew that they could all, number one. Number 2, she worked as a volunteer with that class all the way through. They became her kids, all the way through their elementary and high school careers. She never left them. All right? They all knew they were in and out of her house all the time, and in her life.
She walked the walk of the commitment she made.
She walked the walk with all of them, all the way through. Okay? But the fact is, she also acknowledged she didn't walk it by herself. The teachers signed on.
They bought into it.
The parents signed on to buy into it. And the kids, to your point, signed on. And they all walked this journey together. And then, of course, the larger community walked, because she had to fundraise along the way. She thought it would be possible for her to earn enough money, raise enough money to send all these children to school, if she had years to do it. And so she used the years of their educational maturation in order to put all that money in place. And she did it. What she did actually was what we call leveraging. All right, she leveraged her commitment, her relationships, these students' passion, and they became extraordinary and successful in that.
Saw the results.
Yeah. Now, oftentimes this is reported as what Oral Lee did by herself, but she is quick to tell you there was no by myself. There was no by myself. Everybody pitched in and stayed in through the process all the way through. And what was the accomplishment is that the children then were sent into a higher realm of educational opportunity than the parents themselves were. All right? And perhaps into careers that the teachers themselves had never been able to touch. And the expectation is that as a class that they would reach, as you would like to say, back and help others. But they were never going to have to reach alone as individuals. They were part of a collective of 30-something people who always had each other. And so we've got to quit sending one-ups and expecting them to deliver all of us. We have got to send whole communities intact.
Back to the village.
We must send the village intact up into opportunity. And that is what we learned.
And that outcome is what motivates me to do what I do, to scratch at the wall and make that noise, because what she did with this group, say it was 20, 25 kids, because their adult life is longer than those that youth life. So she gave them the path, first of all, and the understanding that from here on, it's up to you, not only for you, you're going to bring along a family, and you still got to reach back for the community.
And the point is, as a collective. As a collective. Now, what we have been doing, this is important to see, what we have been doing in the past was sending an individual.
See, that's what I'm learning from
by herself
today, right?
into whatever company you would say.
And then we keep sitting back talking about that person.
And the models for success in all the other collectives and all the other communities have never been just one. The entire group came in together.
That's why I've learned that from
and the entire group came up together. And so the opportunity for us.
And then you could see the results.
You can see and so the opportunity for us to change the outcomes of what we get in the way of our effort is for us to come up in the end together. So what we do ask companies to do is understand you've got to quit cherry picking, Rhonda, and then telling her only her, and make it so that she comes with her group. What does that mean? When a company is recruiting, let's say they go to a college and say, okay, we want you, and then we expect you to come and be transplanted here and be the black person. Instead, what they do is say, we see you for whatever reasons. We can see you now. Tell us who the others are in your circle, who we also ought to be bringing. Who you know and who help you be successful.
So now we have had a dynamic conversation. I got a good takeaway from this and changing my paradigm and not so much with how come you didn't. But when I'm open-minded to as a woman, don't keep singling her out, because basically what you're pointed out is we don't do that for the other groups. They went in as a group, and whether they brought in 1 or 10, they were able to do it as a group. But we historically, unintentionally, but your study showed that we still did it, kept sending a lot, as they allowed that token black female to get in there. The rest of us are sitting back like, and now it's 100. To this one, was the rest of them was 100, and they brought in 1 or 2.
And again, we did not sit back. When she tried to bring,
I'm talking about us as the public sitting back.
Us as a public,
that one person,
right? Because we were accessorizing with her rather than actually opening the opportunity for actually the community to move forward with what it was doing.
And getting more people to the door, so even if she tried to pull one in, if nothing else, the rest of us was the fourth, helping. Okay, she's pulling, and the rest of us, if we collectively pushing, which is whatever.
And then the people in her environment were supposed to help with that support, and they did not do it.
See, that's the part where you lose me, because that's what racism is in oppression is all about, because none of them do it.
Yes, so I haven't lost you, but what I'm saying is when you come in and you're the only one, the last thing you want to be.
That's what you gain.
Right. The last thing I ever want to be is the only one of me anywhere. All right? I'm at risk whenever I'm the only one.
So anyway, I learned some stuff. I love it. Love you. Love the conversation. Love your organization. So they've wrapped us up 1,000,000 times, but that don't never matter to me. So, but what I need you to do, because at the end of the conversation, the public need to know exactly, again, who you are, what can they do to help you do what you're doing, or how can they benefit from what you're doing, or what should we as an audience, because the audience is mixed, how can we grow from here?
Okay.
The election is coming up. We should no longer sit back and be passive voters. What should we be doing to try to see? Because my thing is, when it comes to politics, is even if you don't have an agenda, allow yourself to add strength to the voice of the masses that do.
Okay, with regards to who the League is, the League is a national organization, and the League wants your viewers to become members of the League of Black Women. We want you to contribute. Okay, you go to the League of Black Women's website, leagueofblackwomen.org. Okay. All right, you read some things, find out what we do, and then there's an opportunity for you to click join. Okay. So join the League of Black Women. So now, is there a membership? Is that yes? Okay. There's 1 or 2, maybe 4 levels of membership. Pick one that works for you, and make the contribution and join. Okay. That's what you can do. Number 2. Go to the website, first of all, learn a little bit more about, what we were chattering about. But actually, the thing is to take action and join. Okay. Join the League of Black Women. If you take away that, what am I going to do? I'm going to actually join the League of Black Women. Okay. Because I want to help that organization help us understand how we can be successful.
Researching and studying is very important. She has really educated, because this is what I hope the public understands. You got to realize that each of us comes from a different level of knowledge and experience. So based on my knowledge, my experience, my work experience, those who I have helped, who I try to help, I have one understanding in life. They do the research.
Right.
So they'll
gather. Right. So what we do is gather the collective experience, and then we're able from that to say, here's what really happened there. It wasn't just my view or your view. It was, this is what really went down.
Which is important, as opposed to the 10 women that I met, in the last 50 years that were in places of power, and then I've come away with the stereotype that I've obviously heard and bought into. Like, look at her, she didn't made it to blah blah blah, and she didn't recommend me for a secretarial job. The research shows, the
research shows that she very possibly probably did. But without the power to actually bring you in, a recommendation is just kind of like so.
And when you're putting that on the table, now you will say, oh, you know what? That's what so-and-so was talking about. She applied for that job. She knew she qualified. And then for no reason, she didn't get it.
Yeah. And now we know. We have women who say all the time, well, I recommended so-and-so. And then that person you recommend goes through this endless circle of interviews that never turns into the offer. And this was happening not just for one person. It was happening all over the place. And then after a while they say, we can't find anybody. But the fact is they never intended to hire. And then there are other myths that have to change. For instance, in our community, as black women, as little girls, we're taught, you can do it, you're a girl, you just whatever you want to happen, you can do. So each and every one.
Let me see here, do the wrong thing. Let me better get that. I hear her talking on the phone. I know.
Yeah, I told you, see how easy it was?